working in ISRO Telemetry Tracking and Command Network. It is situated just in Pinia, just half a kilometer away from your campus. So I'm working as a technical officer in a navigation systems area. So this is my email ID. So you can write to me anytime you want regarding the subject or any advice or any information or resources you require on the navigation topic. So today my topic is navigating life, history, principles and applications. Okay, so sir was telling about it's the right time for you people to navigate yourself in your life. So you are at a transition phase now. Okay, so how we can relate ourselves with the navigation principle? How all these years people have moved from one place to other place. So how people have moved from one place to other place, what were the difficulties, how they have overcome it, what were the basic principle behind it, and today what is the technology available for navigation, and application and challenges lie ahead. Okay, so all these things I will be going to cover. So first of all, you will be seeing three pictures here. So I have given you the topic navigation. So can you relate why I have put these three? Can anybody say what is this? So you know what is a compass. Why it is three? Why it is used? So you need to find north direction. So for that you will be using a compass. Okay. So that is a tool for navigation. That itself will not make you navigate. Okay. It will help you to navigate yourself by identifying some position. Okay. So what is this? Footprint. Footsteps. Okay. So that is like a journey. So when I say something about navigation, it is about journey. Okay. So what is this? But when we talk about navigation, the first thing that comes to our mind is birds, because birds are evolved much before us and they are very good navigators. Okay. So this is the thing I want to cover today. Okay. So this is a brief overview of my talk. So I will be covering brief history of navigation, then what is radio navigation, and technologies that enabled global navigation satellite systems, GNSS, navigation using Indian constellation, GNSS application and challenges ahead. Okay. So before going further, so I will ask, what is navigation? What do you know about navigation? Can anybody answer that? Like if I say navigation, what comes to your mind? I have seen all of you talking because I was sitting in one among you. So I have seen most of the people were talking. So now it is the right time for you. Please speak up. When I say
establishing relation or communicating with one person and staying far away,
that is communication, not navigation.
Direction.
Close.
Tracking the direction of the path.
Speak louder.
Tracking the direction that the actual path.
Very close. Suppose today you have invited me to your college, right? Okay, I am traveling from say Tumkur. Okay, I don't know the location of your college. Okay, some bus fellow then he dropped me at 8 mile. You know 8 mile, right? Okay, 8 miles. But I don't know it is 8 miles. Okay, understood? Okay, now from 8 mile to Soundarya View College I have to come. Okay, so navigation basically means it contains two things. Okay, first you identify your own position. Understood? First you identify your own position, and from that position you want to travel to a different location. You find a path and stay in that path. Okay. Suppose now I am in 8 mile. I want to come to Saudariya College. So my location is first I have to identify myself that I am in 8 mile. So how I will come to know that I am in 8 mile? Google and all was not there. Just check out. Nothing is there available. Yeah, we'll ask people. We'll see the boards. Yeah, somebody will be saying no, this Mahalakshmi stores or some things. Area name will be written as words. Okay? Then some landmarks. Madam might have told me you will find one big complex called some complex name. Through that I will identify myself that where I am. Okay. Now I want to go to a Saudariya College. So now what I do? We'll phone our friend or somebody, or we'll say, okay, turn towards Esrighatta Road. Okay, come some 400 meters. Then you will have first left or something, Saudariya Cooperative Society. Take left there. Okay, then come another 100 meters. Then you will have 4 left. Am I right? When I am coming to there, I have consider all those things. That fellow took right in the 8 mile signal. Then again he took left in Saudariya Cooperative Society building. Then your college comes in 4th left. Is it not? Is it not? So that is the way how we navigate. So now from the perspective of navigation, all my requirements have been met now. Is it not? First I identified my location. Okay, I know where is my destination, how to go to that destination, how to stay in that direction. Is it not? Okay, so this is what navigation is. So navigation etymology, if you look at it, so actually this word navigation is derived from the Latin word. Okay, so it means from navigation, meaning the process or activity of accurately ascertaining one's position and planning and following a route. Is it not? So asserting one's position is nothing but identifying your position. Okay. Planning and following route is nothing but following a path and staying in that path. So the art and science of charting a course from point A to point B and staying in that course is called navigation. In my example, point A is 8 mile, point B is Saudariya. And some course I have been identified. So I stayed in that course and I successfully landed in Saudariya. Okay, that is navigation. This is the etymology of the word. Etymology, you know, like how a word is derived, how it has come into the practice. So you all know Kannada, right? I assume that you know Kannada. Okay, some Kannada related things are also there here. So in Kannada we call Naukayana or navigation. So what is Nauke? Ship. Nauke, ship. Yana means? So see, in the word itself there is a principle and meaning behind that word. Is it not? Because navigation as a principle, as an engineering, mainly developed because of ships and the journey from other continents to the journey between the continents. Okay, so that's why the word navigation was originated from the words related to ships and nature. Okay, so this is the etymology about that word. Am I making sense? You are able to follow me? If you have a doubt, please ask. Okay? Don't be shy. You can ask in Kannada, you can ask in English. Anything which is comfortable to you. Okay? Okay. Then, so let us wind the clock back. Okay? You don't have any mobiles. You don't have GPS. You don't have any radio navigation available to you. Okay? So you don't have any other means, like you don't know the language itself to ask. You don't know the script. You don't have any name boards. Okay? nothing is there. Then in that case, how do you navigate? Map is also not there. Because if you go to an animal world, a bird doesn't know all this, but it still navigates. There are some birds which crosses Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Oceans. Like it travels around more than 8,000 miles, and it travels there and it comes back. Okay, it doesn't have anything in its hand. Like it doesn't know the language, it doesn't know the maps, it doesn't know the technology. Nothing is available to it, but it still navigates. How it is possible? Is it not? True? That is the one. Like not all the birds. Some birds use sun orientation. Okay. Wind speed. Wind speed helps in navigation. Correct. Pole star. Yeah, that is the one. Yeah, pole star has been helping, especially humans, not birds much. For humans, it is helping. So basically, this is a word from F.G. Major who written a book called Quo Vadis. Like Quo Vadis means where are you going? Okay, in Latin, Quo Vadis means where are you going? Okay. So the life on earth displays myriads of forms and behaviors, but none so mystified as are the ability of many creatures to find their way over immense distances, spanning the globe, often crossing wide expanses of open sea to perform their migration. It is still largely a mystery that reaches the very genetic basis of animal behavior. So here is even today see some birds uses sun, some birds uses stars, some birds uses magnetic field, but it is not completely understood even today. It is still a open question how animals are being navigated. It is still a open question. What is the molecular basis of it? Whether there is any molecular basis is there for them to navigate. So animal navigation is still an open area where people can do research. Okay. So basically in form of navigation, in animal navigation there are three types. Like one is piloting, like the movement is guided by consecutive landmarks. So you are told, okay, like some complex is there, all those. Even birds also, like some seashore, some mountains. It will have some kind of a tube. Okay, based on that it will navigate. Okay, so that is called piloting. Okay, then compass orientation, like based on the magnetic field. Okay, so birds have internal compass. Okay, it aligns itself with the Earth magnetic axis. Okay, that is compass orientation. Then true navigation is like moment you don't know the destination, you don't have anything, but still some species are having the capability to navigate. So that is where actually the molecular basis is coming into the picture, and it is still a open question. People are finding, but it's an open question. How every creature is successfully navigating itself. Okay, so this is about animal navigation, basic classification. Somebody already told orientation by this side. So how animal navigate itself is through orientation by this side. Okay, but in order to use the sun orientation, because sun will not be in a single place. Whether he will be in single place for us, he will move from one direction to other direction. Is it not? Is it not? From an observer point of view, he will move from east to west. Okay. So similarly, birds also, they are looking at the sun. Sun is also moving based on the time. Is it not? Okay. If it is 12 o'clock in the afternoon, where he will be? Where the sun will be? Zenith. Above the zenith. Okay. So that time compensation should also be there. Otherwise, it is difficult to navigate using the sun. Is it not? But how the animals are compensating for the time? Because in human navigation, The time was a very precise, very challenging task. People have taken almost 2000 years to invent a reliable clock. Okay, but in case of animals, how they are being utilizing the time concept? Have you heard of circadian rhythm? Okay, see, all our animals have a body clock. Is it not? Like if you are daily waking up at 6 o'clock, and if you continue it for some more time, then your body gets aligned to that time. You will be always waking up at 6 o'clock. And if you are sleeping at 10 o'clock, okay. So how it is possible? All animals have body clock. That is called circadian rhythm. Okay. So I will show you that in the coming slides. So that circadian rhythm is very, very important. So animals, birds, they will come to know the time through their circadian principle. Okay. So that is how, with the help of sun and their own circadian rhythm, they will be able to identify the time and direction. Okay. Then orientation by stars. Suppose some birds and some animals, they do travel in night also. So if they are traveling in night, how it is possible? Star, obviously no. Otherwise, what is the source? You should have some reference. Is it not? So, like this is a dung beetle. It is there in African desert and African forest. It is able to identify its location and navigate through the orientation by stars. Okay. Then winds and current. So somebody already told winds and current. So that also helps in navigating. Then electric orientation. So this is one more concept, like this is a skate kind of sea creature, and this is a weak electric fish. What these animals will do is they will generate a small electric pulse from their body, and they will send it to the external atmosphere, especially these fishes in the water. Okay. So then they will sense the same electric field. Okay. If because of any nearby creature or nearby any obstacles, if there is any living beings or any obstacle is there, then there will be difference in that electric field. That it will sense us, and thereby it navigates itself. You know bat? Yeah, it sounds, ultrasound sound, it transmits and gets it back. Then through that it comes to know what is ahead in my path. Then thereby it corrects. Similar way they do it through the electric orientation. Okay. All these things just people have come to know in the recent years. Okay. Animal navigation it comes from under the animal behavior studies. Okay. So that is entirely biology subject. Okay. So if you take navigation as a theme, okay, you can be you can be studying biology and be a good researcher. You can be an engineer. There are a lot of avenues are available with the navigation theme. Okay. So that's why I am providing these kind of examples. Okay. Still there are a lot of open questions. Because how they are doing it, what is the gene responsible for generating the electric field, and after generation it is sensing also. Then there must be some mechanism to sensing. See, these are the kind of questions that you can probe into and do research. Okay. Am I making sense? You are able to follow? Okay. Then magnetic orientation. Okay, so some pigeons, then robins, they all use magnetic orientation, magnetic fields of the earth. And the two, see, magnetic field have two components, like horizontal component and vertical component. In any field you could take, it will have different components. So based on the components of the magnetic field, so they decide the direction. See, here the horizontal field is to the left side and vertical field is to the down side. So with that it is traveling towards south, southwest. Okay, so similarly you can see this arrow you see. Okay, based on the magnetic field, it changes its direction. So how people have come to know this? They have done experiments, like some setup they have made. Artificially they have changed the magnetic fields. Okay, then they have come to know how these robins are behaving. So this comes under animal navigation and particularly animal behavior. Okay, those who are studying animal behavior, they may take navigation as a theme and study. Okay, you know about Indian elephants, right? Indian elephants have a unique capability. Like it is a social animal, elephants, right? Because especially tusker, wild tusker living there. All other animals, all other elephants live in a group. Is it not? So in that group, there will be one female elephant who will be leading the group. Okay, so that female elephant till her lifetime, she will lead that group. Okay, and she knows in this particular season where the food will be available. Then after this season where I should go. So you will be listening to the news. Okay, elephants have entered city. Elephants have entered some villages. It's not that the elephants have entered. We have entered elephant corridors. Okay, but the astonishing fact is that whatever elephant corridors are there, okay, that has been known to the female elephant, and it translates this information. It identifies one more female elephant who can lead the group, and she transfers everything to the next leader. Okay, thereby the entire elephant corridor, okay, so have been transferred. The knowledge about elephant corridors have been transferred to the successful generation. How it is possible? What is the genetic basis? What is the molecular basis? Or it is only about landmarks? If it is only about landmarks, then landmarks have been changed over the period because humans have done so many damage to the environment. Is it not? But these are all still opening questions, opening challenges. How an elephant can successfully transfer the knowledge? Because today knowledge transfer is a big task, big challenge. Okay, if I know something, how best I can transfer my knowledge to you? That's the challenge. If that is the case, how elephants are successful in doing that? It's still an open challenge, open question. But we know that it has been happening because of otherwise, after generations together, 10-15 generations, how that elephant can come to this place? Because there is a corridor nearby our place. Like elephant from Uttati forest, Malayalam forest, it comes till Sidrabetta, Tumkur. Via Ramnagar, Chanpatna, Magadi, Tumkur, Devarayandurga, Shivagange, up to that. There is a corridor. You might be reading in newspapers that elephants have crossed there. Once even it entered Mysore city. How it will come to know? Because to the successful generations, that the information has been transferred to the female elephant who is leading the group. Okay, this is about magnetic orientation. Then this is one more just an example. Homing pigeons. You know pigeons, right? And pigeons, those who have pigeons in their homes, they will be knowing this. Even if you leave it for flying, after some time it will come back to its home. Is it not? That's why it is called as homing pigeon. Okay. So earlier days, from the communication point of view, there were no radio communication available. If you want to send some information to the farthest point, nearby farthest point, they used to have pigeons. They used to tie the message into the legs. Okay. Then they used to train in US Air Force, in European defense. They had a very systematic group who can train the pigeons for sending these information. Okay. So this Sher Rami is a one such example where this pigeon has saved 194 soldiers' lives. during the World War I. How it did it? In part the way, because unknowingly this US one troop had gone to German territory. So there were 550 men in the territory, but Germans started bombing them. Okay, so their people were dying, and before this pigeon, they flew 2 more pigeons, but they were killed by the Germans. Okay, so for this also, his legs were removed, his heart was damaged. Okay, but even then, it successfully came to the base station and gave that message. Then with that, people went there and rescued this 194 flight. It's not a real image, but there is one word called they can take the fur and make a artificial model. There's one more word. Because you can see in some many houses they will have a cheetah, they will have a tiger. Okay, I'll come to that. So this is kept in Smithsonian laboratory in the US. Okay. So because this was possible because pigeons were very good at navigating the sea. Is it not? It saved 195 lives. Then this is called monarch butterfly. Okay. So they live in North America, especially during borders of North America and Canada. Okay. It's still a matter of debate. They, like successive generations, okay, they migrate from this border to the south towards Mexico. One generation it starts, then it comes here, then it lay eggs, then the second generation comes, they stay there only. Third generation again it will go back. Okay, so till now we have seen a single generation bird or an animal, it goes there and comes back. At least we will come to know that it has some clues, landmarks, orientation. That's why it goes there and comes back. But here, there is a very exciting thing. It is happening through successive generation, because whatever generation has come from here to here, it has died. Next generation has come. Next generation has come. Third generation has come. And third generation is successfully going back to the place where their ancestors have come. Okay. Now people were very curious how it is possible. Okay. So now they have find out that through polarization of sunlight. Okay. Through polarization of sunlight, these monarch butterflies are able to navigate them. But to sense the polarization of sunlight and to sense the direction and all those things, what is the genetic basis? What are the genes involved in that? Is still a open. People are doing research. This is about monarch butterfly. Am I boring still? I am not come to the human navigation. Still only I am doing animal navigation. Okay, this is a long distance migratory bird. This is sooty shearwater. This is a seabird. Okay, it is known to be as a long distance migratory bird. Okay, so it lives in New Zealand. Okay, this is the area where it lives, New Zealand and Australia. Okay, so it can cover entire Pacific Ocean, Arctic Ocean. See all this blue region you can see, right? Okay, so this can travel anywhere between these points. That is the speciality of this. This is the longest traveling migratory bird. What is its name?
Albatross.
Sooty shearwater. You are telling me?
I was wrong.
Then there is one more fish called Pacific Solomon. Okay. So it's like, have you heard of it? Solomon. So it basically lives in fresh water. But for laying eggs, it goes to the ocean. It goes to the Pacific Ocean. It generally stays in inland waters of North America. Okay. in rivers or ponds, rivers. Okay. So for laying eggs, it goes to the ocean, Pacific Ocean or Arctic Ocean, and it comes back. Okay. Now people have found out in inlands, through rivers, through some smell, olfactory cues, it is able to navigate. But in ocean, how this fish is able to navigate and come back is still an open mystery. It's still an open mystery. So you can just do some more research. You can, if you start reading about it, you will come to know. Okay, just I am giving a small glimpse how the animal world is doing navigation. Okay. So this is about animal navigation. So far we have covered animal navigation. Small glimpse of it. Okay. Then comes classification of navigation system. So in any navigation system, there are three major types. Okay. One is dead reckoning system. Okay. Next one is guidance system, and third one is position finding system. Okay. Dead reckoning system is like early seafarers, and I will explain what is dead reckoning. All these things I will explain. Early seafarers and Polynesians. Like there are Polynesian islands available between the Pacific Ocean is there, no? So there, what are all islands are there? So there Polynesians lives. Okay. So they were able to travel between the islands in the large Pacific Ocean. So they were the early navigators. As far as early navigators were Polynesians, and they were also one among the early navigators, Polynesians. Okay. So they used to have a dead reckoning system. Dead reckoning system is nothing but, like here you go four steps in south direction, take 90-degree right, then go 30 steps, come back in the same path, come back in the same way. Okay. That is called dead reckoning. One very good example is there. I will can anybody identify? This is a scene from the recent film. Okay, bell bottom I have seen, no? Okay, this song is very famous. How she drives? This is a blind person. It is shown here. Okay, it is shown here. How she trains? This is an example for dead reckoning. You are able to follow. If you have seen the movie, you need not see the movie. If you see the song itself, you will come to know. So this is a dead reckoning principle. So you can see here. So he goes some 4 steps and takes right. With that only he will be able to go to every police station and grab the amount. So this is an example for dead reckoning. One is guiding. Next is you understood about dead reckoning, right? Okay. Next is guidance. Guidance is with that system, I will not be able to find my own position, but I know that where is my destination. Okay, that is called guidance system. You have lighthouses. So if anybody is from South Kerala, North Kerala, they will all know which is the famous lighthouse in Karnataka. ಯಾವುದು ಕಾಪು ಬೀಚ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಕಾಪು ಬೀಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೈಟ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Is it that? That lighthouse means lighthouse will not help me to identify my position, but it will help me to identify my destination because the seashore is there. So I have to travel towards that lighthouse. That is guidance system. Okay. So there is an instrument landing system, microwave landing system, which helps for aircraft landing. Okay. They are also of the same kind. It helps only for landing. It will not help for finding your own position. But third category comes position finding. With this, you can identify your own position, and also you can go to the destination. So this is a major 3 classifications. One is dead reckoning, guidance, then is position finding. These are the modern navigation system. Is broadly classified under this. Okay. You are able to follow, right? Okay, this is about like whole story you were telling or somebody was telling. So how people like if it comes to geography, so you are is spherical, so you will be having longitudes and latitudes. If I want to go to any particular place, Forget about the name. Okay. I will see only what is the latitude, what is the longitude of that place. Based on that, I will go and I will come back. Okay. But how these systems have been developed, how the latitude have been developed, all these things you might have studied in the geography to some extent. And but all these almost people for 2000 years, okay, they have struggled to come to this conclusion, like how to determine our latitude, how to determine our longitude. Okay. So longitude determine is related to time. Okay. So that was a very challenge, and this challenge was actually overcome only in the 18th century. Okay. So suppose you know about UTC, you know, Coordinated Universal Time. You know about Indian Standard Time. Is it not? IST. Okay. There is a one time scale called Coordinated Universal Time. That is the reference for all our global requirement. Okay. So Indian time is ahead of UTC by 5 hours 30 minutes. Okay. So if I say 5:30 here, early morning, in Greenwich, okay, okay. So earlier it was called Greenwich Meridian Time, GMT, but now they have renamed it as UTC. Okay, where now because clock earlier it was defined in terms of solar motion, solar day. Okay, but now with the help of atomic clocks, they have refined the definition of atomic second. Okay. So with that respect, we will derive the time. So why longitude will come into picture meaning? Here, if there is a 15-degree shift in the longitude, okay, it amounts to 1 hour delay. Okay. Suppose 0 degree, if I take it as a Greenwich Meridian. Okay. Suppose I am off by 5.5 hours. Okay. So 5.5 hours into 5.5 into 50. How much it comes to? 82.5. So 82.5 degree is my longitude. Suppose if you take like our Indian map, we are around, if you take center of the India, we are around 82.5 degree longitude. So that's why based on your location, your longitude is going to be derived, and based on that, your time offset also is going to be derived. This was the major problem for sea navigators. Okay, so that is a complete history. If you want to know more about it, you can explore yourself. Okay. Then it is dead reckoning I explained now. So you go towards this direction some steps, then go take left, and again you can come back by the other day also. Follow the same things. But in case of sphere, like because Earth is a sphere, is it not? Okay. Same dead reckoning will not amount. If it is a 2D plane, this will help. But in case of sphere, this will help, but it will not be clear because suppose you go from here to here and go there, you will be landing in B. Same way, if you go by this direction, you will be landing in B dash. There will be offset because it is a spherical. Because you know how sphere will be. Is it not? It will not be as rectangle. It will not be a plane. There is a difference. That's why they were finding difficulty. Then this is about that like a Polynesian islands I told you now. So it is lies between America, North and South America, and Japan and Australia. These were Polynesian people. They were navigating between these islands. Okay, they are Polynesians actually. They were regarded as very early navigators. Like from 2500 BC to 500 BC they were there, and they were navigating through this Mediterranean Sea. This is all Europe, and this is north of Africa. Okay, so in between there is a Mediterranean Sea. Okay, they were navigating among these places. Then Vikings, Polynesians, these are all early navigators, early human navigators. So this is the Vikings. Vikings you might have heard names. Okay, so they were some nomadic people based in this Norway and Sweden. And they were early in the 8th, 9th, 10th century. They invaded all these places. This number, whatever you are seeing now, at what time they are, in which year they have invaded this place, that is shown. And their route, all those things. They were able to do it because because they were good in navigation. Okay. And sadly, Professor Shah Shettar, who has written this book, Shangam Tamilagam, okay, he was a famous historian from Kannada. He died today. He died in the early morning. Actually, I put it for some other reason, but so coincidence that he was not well. Today he has died. But this work called Shangam Tamilagam, okay, this is a phenomenal work which brought classical status to Kannada language. Okay, it is about Shangam literature of Tamil Nadu. Okay, he has found so many references about Kannada, Karnataka in those Shangam literature, and thereby proving Kannada is also one of the very ancient language. Okay, so in that, you know, which is the first royal community kingdom of Karnataka? Bit of history. Karnataka ಮೊದಲ ರಾಜಮನೆತನ ಯಾವುದು? ಯಾರು ಮೊದಲ ರಾಜಮನೆತನ ಯಾವುದು? ಕದಂಬ reference is there in Shangam literature, and you see what is there. ಬನವಾಸಿಯನ್ನು ತಮ್ಮ ರಾಜಧಾನಿಯಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ದಕ್ಷಿಣದ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಅರಸುಗಳು ಸುಮಾರು 10,000 ಕಾಲ ಅರಬ್ಬಿ ಸಮುದ್ರ ಮತ್ತು ಹಿಂದೂ ಮಹಾಸಾಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕದಂಬರು ತಮ್ಮ ಅಧಿಕಾರವನ್ನು ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಲು ಶಂಗಂ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದಿಂದ ತಿಳಿಯಲಿದೆ. ಚೇರ ಕದಂಬರ ಈ ಕಾಲಾಟ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತಿದ್ದು ಸದಾ ಸಮುದ್ರದ ಮೇಲೆ ನೆಲದ ಮೇಲೆ. ಚೇರ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ತಮಿಳ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್. ಲೈಕ್ ನಾವು whatever is Kerala is there, that comes under Chera province. Okay, they were always fighting in the sea, and Kadambas had a very good hand in seafaring. They were going up to Sri Lanka. Isn't it? First dynasty of Karnataka, they were good at sea navigation. This is what it shows from the Shangam. It's just it's not closely related to the topic, but I thought, okay, I'll put this one since we are living in Karnataka. And there is also one more called Rajendra Chola in 11th century. Okay, he has invaded Sumatran Islands, Malaysia, all these places, and these were his territory. Since he was able to go to this far, he must have been good at navigation. Is it not? So this was this was actually area where he was ruling, but he invaded all these places. That's why you can see Tamil settlements even today in these areas. Up to Fiji Islands, people are. Okay, this is about human navigation, and these are some of the instruments which were being used by early navigators. Okay, this is sundial, then nocturnal is there, magnetic compass, then sand glass. This is earlier people used to have this for timing. Okay, then this is astrolabe, and this is a sextant. These are all astrolabes and David's quadrant. These are all some instruments you used to measure the angle between that pole star and your horizon. And they are having preliminary maps, and they were finding out what is the local time. Based on that, what is the constellation now we are looking at. Through that, they were able to identify that position. So it's a long history. I am not going into detail about the celestial navigation, but these are some of the instruments which were being used at that time. Okay, so for navigation, there are two main Nobel Prizes come from. Okay, so in 2014, these people were awarded Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for finding genetic basis of inner GPS. Okay, in animals, in humans, they have identified cells that constitute a positioning system in the brain. Okay, this fellow Zano Keys has identified position cells in our hippocampus of our brain. Okay, some position cells are there which will help to make a map of certain area. And these two, Moser, Britt Moser and Edward Moser, they have identified a grid cells in hippocampus area, and with the help of position cells and grid cells, we humans and all some animals, we can make a 3D map in our brain. With that help only we will be able to navigate. Okay, so that was the discovery, and they got Nobel Prize for that. And in 2017, okay, so sir has written a book also about this, Chennai sir. This is for these three people got Nobel Prize for discoveries of molecular mechanisms controlling the circadian rhythm. I told you about circadian rhythm, is it not? Okay, so they found what are the genes responsible for maintaining the body clock. Okay, so they were awarded Nobel Prize in the 2007. Okay, so this is about till now how people used to navigate. Now we are stepping into radio navigation. So all these years people were having different kind of instruments. Somehow they were doing. Once the radio technology, the radio came into picture, they were able to use electromagnetic waves for different applications. Now navigation also was thought of how we can make use of radio waves for navigation. Okay, so people thought of that and they came up with different systems. Okay, so today whatever you see GPS, okay, Indian system is navigation. All these things are based on all this comes under radio navigation. Okay, I'll explain that. But before that, radio navigation works on the main three principles. Whatever I am covering is very basic, which is there available in your PU textbooks. Okay, all these scientific discoveries have happened with the help of very basic fundamental understanding. Okay, so with that we have three methods for radio navigation. Okay, so one is trilateration. Okay, trilateration means tri means what? Lateration means what? Lateration means measuring the distance. Okay, so in this trilateration we are measuring time of arrival. Okay, that I will explain what it is. Then hyperbolic positioning. Okay, you all have studied this. Basically, what we see once you come to the radio navigation, what you study is more about hyperbola, circle, ellipse. All our satellite communication, satellites are based on elliptical rotation. Okay, if you know good at analytical geometry, you will easily understand so many concepts. Okay, all these concepts are based on the fundamentals. So whatever you are studying now is more than sufficient. If you are good at this, next comes only in higher studies, only application part only. If you are good at fundamentals, what you are studying in second year, those things can be applied in your later stage. So all these systems have been developed like that. Now we come to trilateration. The whole GPS is basically works in this trilateration principle, which uses concept of circles and spheres. Then is Doppler position. Doppler effect also you might have already studied. Is it? Then trilateration. What is trilateration? I'll explain with respect to this image. Suppose you are there in this position B. Okay, you don't know. Okay, now I am in 8th mile. Okay, I don't know that I am in 8th mile. I am a very stranger to this entire city. I don't know the language. I don't know nothing. Okay, but I have a friend. Okay, so I ring up a friend who is there in Tumkur. Okay, now let us call him as S1. Okay, I'll ask him. See, I don't know where is my location, but he knows where I am. But he doesn't tell that. But he says, you are 70 kilometers away from me. Okay, he tells that. Okay, with that information, if I draw a circle, are you able to follow me? If you draw a circle, keeping him as the center. Okay, and 70 kilometer radius circle if I draw. Okay, then I can be anywhere in this perimeter, the circumference. Is it not? If I say you are 70 kilometers away from me, if I draw a circle with a radius of 75 kilometers, I can be anywhere in that circumference. Because at any point I will be 70 kilometers away from him. Is it not? That is the basic principle of circle. But whether it is going to solve me my problem? Because it gives infinite solutions. Okay. Now, that is not going to help me. Then, suppose I have a friend in Maldives. Is it not? I may have a friend. So he says you are 40 kilometers away from me. Then we take him as yes. Okay. Then we will draw a circle with a radius of 40 kilometers. So now at the same time I should be 70 kilometers away from Tumkur friend and 40 kilometers away from Magdi friend. Okay. Then if I draw one more circle, these two circles coincide at point P and point P dash. Okay. Now what is the result of this? My infinite solution has boiled down to two solutions. But still I am not a god or I am not a superhuman being to be in two positions. I can be only one position. But still it is a problem for me. Is it not? I cannot find where I am. Now suppose one more person is there in Nesrigata. Okay, he says you are 15 kilometers away from me. Suppose you take that color system. Don't think about this radius exact. I am giving just an analogy. Okay. Suppose you draw a circle of 15 kilometers. Then all these circles coincide at a point. That is your question. So this is a principle of trilateration, and this is a principle with which all our GPS, global navigation satellites works. This is exactly the principle. If you know this one, you will know about GPS. But how to achieve, how we can measure, how we can, when he has to transmit, he has to concurrently transmit. All three people have to transmit at the same time. He has to know his position. He has to have a way of communicating the message to me. All these things are engineering problems. But this is a principle. You are able to follow? Okay, this is what you are studying. If you are knowing these fundamentals, it is easy for you to understand the application. Okay, I am not dealing about electronics part and all. Okay, I am dealing about only fundamentals. This is the trilateration. Okay, are you able to follow this? Yes. You understood what is trilateration? Suppose they ask how GPS works. GPS works on trilateration principle. Okay. Then there is a hyperbolic position. Okay, we have studied circles and now we will look at hyperbola. In case of hyperbolic position, what happens is, suppose you are there in position B. Okay. Suppose you receive a signal from a station M and X. Okay. And if you measure the time difference between their arrival, okay. So suppose M has sent a message and I have received at time T1. Okay. And suppose X, you are able to follow me? Okay, X has sent a message but I have received that message at T2. Okay. If I measure T1 minus T2, the difference in time, and plot it, okay, that makes a hyperbola like this. So I can be anywhere in this plane. Based on the time of difference, if I start plotting these differences, I am going to get this kind of hyperbola. This whatever dotted lines are there now, these are the hyperbolas that can be made for time arrival difference between station M and X. Are you able to follow? Okay. Similarly, if I have one more pair, like M and Y, M will be the common, and M and Y, same way whatever I have told them, they will make a hyperbola with this full line now. Right? It's not dotted line, you will be able to see. Yeah. These are all hyperbolas created with the help of these two base stations. Okay? Now we will have a map of these things. There is a system developed by this principle. Suppose I am in P. Okay. So when with this map and if I am able to measure the time difference, then my position will be anywhere between P and P dash. Okay, because these two hyperbolas are intersecting at two points. But still there is ambiguity. But this ambiguity I may have to resolve with some other means. Like this position is coming around somewhere, if I am in 8 miles, if the position is coming around some Mysore means, definitely it is not possible. Because I can be anywhere near Bangalore only, not Mysore. That way I can resolve my ambiguity and find out my position. But if I am in Q, Okay, there is no ambiguity at all because Q and this ellipse and this hyperbola and this hyperbola coincide at only single point. Okay, so with this I am easily able to identify my position. Are you able to hear? This is bit tricky. This is how it works. Okay, so earlier people used to have the navigation system called LORAN based on this principle. Okay, LORAN was the predecessor. These are the technology developed during World War I, World War II. All this sea marine navigation was taken care by this kind of these stations are then MX and Y. These are all ground based stations. Whose positions are entirely known and they were transmitting the signal at a particular frequency, like 100 kilohertz. And ships used to determine the time difference of arrival. Okay, that is what the principle I told you. Trilateration works on the time of arrival principle. Hyperbolic questioning works on the principle of time difference of arrival. So you are able to understand this. This is the one way of questioning, radio navigation principle. Okay. Then comes Doppler positioning. So Doppler, you know, is it not? You might have heard, or you might have studied it. So based on Doppler positioning also, because based on the relative motion between a transmitter and a receiver, the observed or received frequency is going to vary. That is the Doppler principle. You know, right? Should I explain? You know, na? So these principles, based on these three principles, early in the 1950s, 1960s, people developed radio navigation methods. Okay, so based on the hyperbolic positioning, LORAN system was developed. Based on the Doppler positioning, transit satellite system, navigation system was developed. Then using trilateration principle, GPS was developed. Okay. This is the major principle with which radio navigation was evolved. Okay, you are able to follow? Then we will come to global navigation satellite system. Okay, so radio navigation system based on the ground, no, it was posing a different challenge because their coverage was less, limited. If you have a ground-based transmitter, you cannot cover the entire globe. You should have many number of stations for covering entire globe. If there are many number of stations, synchronizing it, maintaining it, it becomes very tedious task. Okay? That is why people were looking for some global methods, global navigation satellites, global methods of navigation. Okay? In that, three technology came in hand in hand. Okay, so GNSS means Global Navigation Satellite System. Okay, so GPS, all this comes under GNSS. Like there are GLONASS, Galileo, all these satellite-based navigation systems are available, like GPS. So that's why all these categories called as GNSS. Okay, so GNSS mainly was enabled by three technologies. That is spread spectrum communication, atomic clocks, and satellite and rocket. So today you are all using your mobile phones. It's a wireless communication. Okay, that happened because of spectrum communication. If you want to be an engineer, if you start learning about electronics, you will come to know what is spectrum. I will not get into that detail. But this was a technology developed by a Hollywood actress, I should say. I'll show that. So her name is Hedy Lamarr. Okay, she was a Hollywood actress. She was born in Austria, later came to US, and along with a music director, this person, they devised during the World War II. They devised a system called secret communication system. Okay, in those days, no, if you send some message through single frequency, people used to receive it and come to know what is the message. Okay. They were having same frequency. That's what prior to that they were having the same frequency. With that frequency, people, the enemy can also receive that same frequency and discern what is the information. For that, they developed a system called secret communication system, in which through some mechanism they use systematically with a known parameter. They used to change the frequency of the modulation. at what frequency they are sending the message, you know, that if you are sending in one frequency, you will come to know. If you are sending the same message in a different frequency within a frame, okay, then it is difficult for him to receive the signal. But for me to receive it, if I know at what sequence I am generating it, same thing if I follow at the receiver end, because he is from my own community, no? So I will be giving that information really. If I have these two information, I can receive the signal. Okay, this is the technique called frequency hopped spread spectrum. Okay, frequency hopped spread spectrum. By applying a different frequency, okay, you will be sending the same message, but using a different frequency at a different instance. Like I am in Soundarya College. I will transmit it in a single frequency, and I will transmit it in a second frequency. Soundarya, like that. Okay, that was the principle developed by. She patented it. They patented it in 1942, but it was not of use because nobody used it. But in 1957, they started understanding this technology and how this technology can be made use of navigation. And this was a game changer actually. Today you are all having mobile phone, wireless communication, mobile phone, GNL, GPS, all these things because of this technology. See, but it was developed by home, a musician and a Hollywood actor. Isn't it interesting? Then atomic clocks. Okay, in 1955 they made first atomic clock based on the cesium. Okay, so this was also one of the game changers for navigation. Okay, I will not go into that detail. Then space technology. So Russians, which was the first satellite? Okay, Russian launched the satellite, first satellite. Okay, so with that satellite technology, rocket technology on one hand, atomic clocks on one hand, wireless communications in the one hand. All these technology were prerequisites for enabling the global navigation satellite. So we will come to satellite-based navigation system. Okay, so that's whatever trilateration things I explained now. Same in case of global navigation satellite system, what we will do is here in place of my friends who are there in Temkur, Magadi and etc. You assume there are satellites. Okay, satellite will send it, satellite will know its position, and satellite have a clock which are synchronized with the ground-based clock, and they will be sending a message. Okay, so that message, if you want to construct a three-dimensional position fix, like you need to have your position in terms of latitude, longitude, and altitude. You need to have minimum 3 satellites. But here in case of GPS, GNSS, you need to have 4 satellites because whatever user clock is there, no? Okay. So that clock also is not very stable. Okay. So that clock will have some bias with respect to the system. Okay. So in order to know that bias and correct it, we want to have one more measurement. Like you are like four friends you are receiving the message and identifying the position. Here what happens? See the time difference between the local clock and the received signal. Okay, will give me the range, time difference. Like suppose from one satellite I have received a signal at some point. Okay, satellite will timestamp the signal and send it. Okay, I will receive the signal at some point. So this TT is the transmitted time from the satellite. Okay, TL is the received local time. Okay, if I measure the difference, that will give me the transit time. Like how much time it has taken for the signal to come from the satellite to the user. Now, this electromagnetic wave travel at the speed of light. Okay, so c is velocity of light. If you multiply c and this time difference, you will come to know about the range. Okay, range is nothing but how far it is there. I told you that my friend is telling 70 kilometers. So this range is nothing but the distance. If you have similar distance, similar range with respect to 4 satellites, okay, you will form a 4 equations. You know about simultaneous equation, right? Simultaneous equation, right? You will have some, if it is a 3 unknowns, you will have 3 equations. Here 4 unknowns are there, 4 equations. So that is what. See, xu is your user position. x1 minus xu, y1 minus yu, and z1 zu minus is the position from the first satellite. This x1, y1, z1 is satellite position. Okay. Then x2, y2, z2 is satellite 2's position. Similarly, all 4 satellites will send a message, and you will make an equation like this. If you and this is one more component called delta t. Delta t is nothing but the bias I told you. Okay. So there are 4 unknowns here. Okay, because xu in this domain and delta t, 4 unknowns. You have 4 equations. You solve it. You will come to know what is your position in 3 dimensions and also the time. Okay, that is the main advantage in GPS, like in GNSS. You will be able to receive position, velocity, and time. These are the 3 important things. Okay, so this is the principle. So how it works? Satellite on its own doesn't know where it is. Somebody has to do ranging and know where the satellite is, and then I have to tell the satellite that it is your position. When you are sending the signal to the user, you should send your position and time. So satellite broadcasts the following information, like satellite position. It is called ephemeris. Okay. So satellite position, then time, other parameters like some errors, all these things will be transmitted from the satellite. A receiver at an unknown location on the earth receives signal from the navigation satellite. It calculates the difference between current time and the time sent by the satellite. I explained in the previous slide. Then assuming that the radio signal travels with the speed of light, the distance between the satellite and the receiver is then known. Okay? So for that, the receiver must be capable of receiving signal from multiple satellites simultaneously and determine the range. That is what pseudo-range is called, all 4 equations. Then receiver must have a computation capability to solve 4 simultaneous equations, making use of the range values and the known satellite position to compute its position. Whatever the first slide is, that I am telling you that word. Further, each satellite must be uniquely identified. Satellite must know their position and broadcast it precisely, and satellite must know the time precisely. The time broadcast by all satellites must be synchronized. If all the satellites' time are not synchronized, then you cannot fix your position. Okay, because based on the time only you are determining your distance. If suppose that fellow transmits the signal at T1 and the another satellite transmits the signal at T2, then you cannot determine your position. Why the time is so important is, since light travels at the speed of electromagnetic waves travels at the speed of light. If there is a 1 microsecond difference in time, it amounts to 300 meter difference. Why? Because speed of the wave is that much. If there is a 1 microsecond, why it is? 3 into 10 to the power 8, no? Okay. 3 microsecond means 10 to the power minus 6. Okay. Okay. Then it amounts to 300 meters. Okay. So there is a 1 microsecond delay between these 2 persons. It amounts to 300 meters error. Okay. So in the navigation, if you are away by 300 meters, then I will not be in 8 miles. I will be somewhere in somewhere. Okay. So that is not admittable. So if you have 1 nanosecond delay, okay, it amounts to 0.3 meters difference or 1 difference. That's why you should synchronize your clock to the highest accurate level. Okay, that was the one requirement. It's not division, actually it's multiplication only. Okay. Then how an architecture of global navigation satellite system will be there? Any global navigation satellite systems will have 3 components. One is space segment and user segment and control segment. This is the control segment, this is the space segment, this is the user segment. Space segment is nothing but satellites revolving around the earth in some constellation. Okay. User segment is nothing but all users, it uses those signals like your mobile phone, aircraft, ships, all of those. Control segment is very much important because you need to control these spacecraft. And also I told you that spacecraft on its own will not know its position, will not know its time. Okay. From the ground, you have to do ranging to the individual satellites. You have to determine the range positions of the satellite, and those information has to be updated to the spacecraft. Satellites, okay? That information only then satellites will send it to the user. Okay? So all satellites will have onboard atomic clocks. Okay? So clock is nothing but your watch or any digital assistant. Over the period it drifts, is it sir? Today if you set it at 10 o'clock, after 1 month it will be showing at 10 o'clock instead, it will be showing around 10 or 5 minutes or 4 minutes, depending upon its accuracy level. What you will do, with the help of this one, you will make it advance or delay by some minutes and make it correct. But in atomic clocks, in space you cannot correct the clock. Is it possible? You cannot correct the clock. It will be a free running clock. Rather than what they will do in ground segment, they will receive the signal, right? In that there will be a system time based on the ground clocks. Ground also will have atomic clocks. One order better than the atomic clocks available in the spacecraft. So they will just receive the signal from the spacecraft and they will identify what is the difference between the system time and the atomic clock time. Okay. The difference with respect to each satellite they will model it, and that parameters they will apply to the spacecraft. Okay. When spacecraft is sending a message, it sends navigation like what is the position message and what is the time now and what are the errors so far has accumulated. This much directions you have to apply in your calculation. That also satellite will send. So with that help, you are synchronizing all the clocks with the help of ground signal. Are you able to understand this? Like I cannot control each clock, but I can only say from the ground segment, this clock is this many seconds away from the system time. This clock in this satellite is this many seconds away from the system time. Because system time is controlled by us. We can control it. So that correction we will send it to the spacecraft as a part of navigation. When satellite sending the message, it sends my time was this much when I sent the message, but these are the correction parameters. You apply this correction parameter also while you are computing your position. That information also is provided in the satellite. So these are the main segments of any global navigation satellite. So that is same thing. Then when it comes to GNSS system, there are so many GNSS means global navigation satellites. Okay. So in that GPS was developed by US Air Force. Okay. So then GLONASS is being developed by Russia. Okay. They also have a similar system. Then Galileo is being developed by European Union. Okay. Then China has developed a system called VIDO. Okay. Then Indian system we have developed a system called NAVIC. Okay. Earlier it was called IRS, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite. Now it was named as NAVIC. NAVIC means navigation using Indian constellation. Then Japan has a system called ZS, Zenith Satellite System. Okay. Then in case of GNSS, there are some error sources because whatever range I have told you now. In that range, there are some error sources which can contribute to that range. Okay. That is written down in Venar lecture. This is our history of GPS because when GPS was formalized in 1960, when it became fully operational in 1995, it took almost 35 years to develop a system. Can you imagine? Whatever GPS system what we are using today, it took 35 years of research and hard work to come to this stage. Okay. They have utilized so many technologies, so many satellites, so many different, they have employed so many different mechanisms. So this many years it took. Based on this, people have developed other systems. Okay. This is the chronology of GPS. And this is the one GPS satellite how it will be. And GPS satellite constellation, like they have a 6 orbital planes. Okay. And in each orbital plane, there will be 4 satellites. So 4 into 6, 24 satellites will be revolving around the globe. Okay. You need to have only 4 satellites for your computation. Okay. But at any point of time, they will be, if you are having a GPS receiver, then depending upon the configuration of your user receiver, you will be able to receive 8 to 10 satellite signals. Okay. Among which are signal strength is good. That 4 satellite signal you can take in between your possession. But they will be having this. They have to continuously monitor this. If any satellite goes bad, they have to replace all these things. They have to do. Then there is a system called differential GPS. Then it comes to NAVIC. NAVIC is a navigation, it is called a regional navigation satellite. I told you GPS is the global because they had a 24 satellite which can cover entire globe. But India, we do not have global satellite covering satellite. We have only regional constellation which can cover Indian landings. Okay. We have 7 satellites, out of which 4 are geosynchronous and 3 are geostationary satellites. Here if you see these 3 satellites are geostationary orbit and these 4 satellites are in geosynchronous orbit. Okay. With the help of these 7 satellites, we can cover entire Indian landmass. Okay. So you know what is geostationary, geosynchronous. This is the NAVIC system configuration. We have 7 satellites. We have ranging state control segment. We have user segment. So we continuously receive signals from these satellites. We do ranging. We model the orbital parameters of the satellite. We model the atomic clocks. Then we uplift this navigation message to the space. This is the primary service area. This is the primary service area of NAVIC, and this is the secondary service area. So anywhere if you are there between this area, you can use our NAVIC signal and find your position. Okay, these are there are 2 services for standard positioning and restricted service. This is for civilian use. This is for military use. Actually, if you see, GPS was developed by US Air Force for defense application, not for civilian use. Okay, it was for military application they developed it. Later, with the technology, so many people found it useful in many applications. So later, one signal they gave it for civilian use. Okay, otherwise it was developed for military. Now, NAVIC chips, Broadcom is a company which makes chips. Okay, so now that Broadcom is making a chipset and MI Redmi 12 is coming up shortly. NAVIC, your mobile will have GPS receiver, right? Similarly, NAVIC receiver also will come in future. Okay. So this is a positioning accuracy. Like with the help of global navigation satellites, people can achieve the accuracy anywhere between 2 to 10 meter accuracy. Like 2 to 10 meter, you draw a circle of 2 meters, 2 meter radius. So your position fix will be anywhere within that circle. That much accurate will be with the help of this GPS global RSS. Then there is the augmentation system called SPOS, GPOS, Gaggan and all, which is used for aircraft landing and all. So it can provide you accuracy up to 1 meter. Okay, up to 1 meter accuracy it can provide you the service. Then there are other services called real-time kinematic and precision precise positioning services, which can provide you at a centimeter level accuracy. Up to 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters. Now it has come up to 1 centimeter level accuracy. Now in geoscience, earthquake studies and all, they are relying on GPS, and they are like whenever a tsunami or earthquake happens, the land surface gets deformed. It is deformed by very small amount in terms of centimeters. If you want to study that, you should have a kind of receivers. They will study before the earthquake, how was the land, after earthquake, how it got deformed, how much distance it got deformed. All these things will be covered. Then applications are plenty. GNSS, it is left to your imagination. Let's say, okay, based on if you have a position, velocity, time of your hand, whatever application you what you can develop out of this. And now you have these are the many applications that is being used, and you will all come to know things. You will all be knowing the consumer. You know today Uber, Ola, Zomato, Swiggy, all these things have been possible because of GNSS. If there is no GNSS, you would not have had Una, Uber, all this. Okay, then marine surveying also. Then agriculture, marine automatic guidance, all these things are going to be possible. The challenges is there. These are the challenges. Like if you want to have a career in your navigation system, like still we have a challenge like jamming, because navigation signals are very weak, very weak signals. If suppose they with the same frequency, suppose they send a very high power signal, they can jam the signal. Okay, so if they jam the signal, you will not be able to fix your position. That is the challenge. Then spoofing also they will do. So exactly whatever satellite sends a message, they will send the same message from the ground. Okay, and with different location, everybody is all over. Then your position will be able to fix you. You will be able to know the position, but it will not be your true position. It will be showing somewhere else. Okay, then that is then multipath, because indoor navigation, signals get reflected from the nearby buildings, tree, all these things. And sometimes it so happens that whatever signal you receive directly, that will be very weak with respect to this reflected signal. In that case, you will be receiving the reflected signal, and that gives a problem for identifying your position. That is the one problem. Then interoperability. There are so many systems like LoRa, GPS, Galileo, all those things. Nowadays, people are going for a multi-frequency, multi-constellation receivers, because at any point of time, when it comes to safety of life application, signals must be available. Okay. If suppose GPS is not available, at least GLONASS should be available, at least Navic should be available. Like that they are going. So if you want to consider all these things, then your design has to, your antenna in your design for all these things. System, processing system you have to design for all these things. That is also one of the challenge. Then indoor navigation. So indoor, within the building, it is difficult, okay, because of all these criteria. So indoor navigation also is a major challenge. So this is my, I think I took a lot of time, 1 hour 15 minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So I hope I have covered to some extent what is the navigation system, how it is affecting your life, what are the challenges ahead. If you want to seriously, like I told you before, if you want to seriously consider career out of navigation, if you are doing biology and chemistry, you can go to that animal area, all those things, molecular biology, all those things. If you are good in mathematics and physics, you can come to engineering and do research in global navigation satellites. Opportunities are plenty. You can choose based on your interest. That's how you can navigate yourself in your life. So, any question if you have, you can ask.
So how does it automatically work?
Atomic clock, actually I had a slide, but I have not got it. Because atoms, you know, okay. So in atom there will be different hyperfine levels. They will travel from one hyperfine level to another hyperfine level. In doing so, they will, while transferring from one level to other level, they emit a frequency. Okay, that was the principle of quantum mechanics. Okay, so with that kind of frequency generation, people thought that can be a very stable frequency. The problem with frequency source is accuracy and stability. The accuracy means you should always produce accurate time. Stability also, over the period, you should not drift away. You should provide at the very steady state. This was the challenge. In case of atoms, by using the hyperfine atomic levels and that frequency, that is very stable and very accurate. There is a mechanism, I didn't brought this slide, I had it, but that is the principle through which they make atomic clocks. And around 12 people have got Nobel Prize who have worked on atomic clocks. And those who are good at physics, and I forgot actually. You can, India is, our own organization is building atomic clocks for the first time. Okay, for space qualified atomic clocks. If you are good at it, you can take it as a challenge and you can be a part of atomic clock. Any other questions? That's why I told you that there are not one ground station. Okay. Ground station is spread across the globe, and all these ground stations are internally connected with the communication link. In our own Mavic satellites, we have 17 stations spread across India. Okay. All the time, here in our case, it is a geostationary satellite. It will be continuously visible. In case of GPS, they have a medium earth orbit satellite, which will revolve around. Will complete its one revolution in 12 hours. Okay. All the time, all satellites will not be visible. But ground stations are spread in such a way that they will receive the signal, and all these signals will come to the control center, like a one control center. There, they will receive all the signals from all the satellites at the same time. Maybe one single station may not be getting all the data from all the satellites, but whatever data it gets, it receives and sends. Some other part, one more ground station will be there, that will receive the signal and will send it. All the signals will come to the control center, and that information will be made use for orbit determination and clock estimation. Any other? Hope I have conveyed some information to you. If you don't have much doubt, either you have understood completely what I have told, or you might have not understood what I have told. So that is a good possibility. So I hope I have conveyed some useful information, what I know to you. Thanks for your valuable time, attendance, patience. I have given my email ID in the beginning, so any point of time you can contact me. I am doing whatever they use. But navigation is really a very great field. You can be, like, if you are good at some bits, you can, keeping navigation as a thing, you can work anywhere. All the best.